I am done referring to Gabbie's behavior as having anything to do with a mental health issue. And neurodivergence and neurodiversity for that matter too, because I think she's doing a huge disservice to those communities by pretending that this kind of behavior is due to that or any mental health condition whatsoever. We're not doing that. Hey there. I wonder if you guys remember when I wore a choker, it meant that I was about to rant. I want to say that's mostly accidental. It's not that I necessarily mean to rant today, but I might. And actually, the reason that I want to make this video is because this situation around Gabbie Hanna is so upsetting and it does make me angry. And as the situation continues to unfold, I get simultaneously more sick and tired and exhausted of the situation, but also angrier about the situation. It might not sound like it makes sense, but I guess as we're going to cover in this video, Gabbie Hanna is a walking, talking contradiction. So I guess the emotions that she evokes in others might be that too. One thing that I will not do is I won't be defending myself for talking about Gabbie Hanna. Really, ever again. I shouldn't. For one, because Gabbie Hanna just gives us content for days and days and days. When she gives us content, I mean, nobody was talking about her recently, and I didn't care to. But right now, the number of videos we could make, oh my god. But even when I'm not talking about Gabbie Hanna, I can't please her and her stance. I can't. Literally today, I woke up to one of her fans being angry at me for responding to a Nick Duramio tweet that had nothing to do with her. So if I can't do right by you when I'm doing what you want, and I can't do right by you when I'm doing what you don't like, then I'm just gonna do what I want, which is what I was always intending to do anyway. So I want to talk about this question. Really, I want to pose this question for myself. Is Gabbie Hanna a liar? And that seems really easy to a lot of people to answer, and it hasn't been for me until recently. But even with everything that went down before I ever spoke to her, even with her telling things that were blatantly untrue around my situation dealing with her personally, and everything after that came out, I always gave Gabbie the benefit of the doubt, at the very least thinking that she probably believes the things that she's saying most of the time, even if they're not true. I wanted to believe that for a long time, but it was actually witnessing the Rachel Oates situation recently, and particularly the way that Gabbie Hanna characterized the conversations between Jimmy Snow, Mr. Atheist, and Rachel Oates so egregiously incorrectly. That was the moment that I really started to think, wow, this woman's a liar. She is a liar. I'm not even going to say like, oh, she's lying. She is a liar. Like all day, every day. And just taking a moment here, I have already really talked extensively about the situation between Gabbie and Rachel specifically during my Basically a podcast this past Tuesday. So I don't want to get way into that, but right here, I will go ahead and leave you the clip from a Girl Man's podcast episode where we covered that whole situation, and I read off of screenshots the text between Jimmy and Rachel. Or specifically, I think I just read the text from Jimmy. It started with him saying, hi, so I have no expectations, but I thought you'd want to know, while I don't think Gabbie watches the videos themselves, I know that the reactions people have to your videos about her poetry definitely hits her feelings. I'm not saying do or don't make the videos, but I thought you'd want to know that the human on the other side of it definitely experiences severe negativity because of it. She hasn't asked me to say this to you, by the way. She told me another one is coming, and it was obvious to me that she's messed up in anticipation. And here I will put how Gabbie characterized that conversation.
I literally did not talk to him at all.
She told me another one is coming.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying?
He saw that she was doing, and he messaged her, and he said, have some compassion. You've been the center of hate campaigns online. Leave this girl alone.
I'm not saying do or don't make the videos.
Like you're just bullying.
Oh my God. Stop your fucking lying.
So at this point, I don't feel like she just exaggerates or is melodramatic. I mean, she is those things for sure. But I think that she just lies. She lies when trying to make herself look better or make other people look worse. It's making me go back to last summer and revisit everything that happened between me and her and rewriting that whole narrative from Gabbie's misremembering the details of our conversations to Gabbie just lied. She just lied. And I think we saw it again with the drama that ensued between her and Oscar Wylde, which wasn't right after the Rachel Oates stuff, by the way. She's just been going off on person after person after person after person. And it gets, like I said, it's exhausting. I don't even want to keep up with all of it. But other people have covered it plenty. But I do want to point out how much lying and contradiction there is going on in all of these situations. The thing with Oscar, I may put his text messages up on the screen and perhaps juxtapose that to how Gabbie characterized that conversation. For my visually impaired friends, and for those of you that listen to my videos but don't watch, subjecting me to the narcissistic abuse that is not paying attention to the creative editing that I do for you. That's sarcasm, friends. I'll go ahead and read the text messages now. They start with Oscar saying, "Yo, I don't want no issues, LOL. I just agreed with his point, and as someone who's grown with my audience, I related to it. I haven't spoken to Nick in a bit, nor anyone for that matter, because I've been working on myself and just getting back into music, and I tend to shut everyone out. People are being insensitive, and I totally notice that as well. I've always had my friendship extended to you, and will always, because you've always seemed like a genuine person to me. So yeah, if you do need to chat or need a friend, that door is always open. LOL, just don't think that I hate you or anything. I just agreed with his point. I wasn't aware of the entirety of the combo. Hope you feel better. Music sounds great, and I hope you continue to concentrate on that. You're very good at it." And then Gabbie says, "Thanks for apologizing. You could say that publicly since you publicly supported my abusers. It would be nice if people stopped DMing privately to correct the thing they said publicly. That's what's been happening with my exploitation since 2018. It's pretty horrendous. Otherwise, I appreciate the gesture, but it's a bit empty if action doesn't follow. It's important to stand up for others when you see them being mistreated by the masses." And Oscar says, "Huh? I definitely did not apologize and still agree with his point. I didn't even owe you what I sent to you, but you seem to be going through difficult times, and I was attempting to be a bigger person, extend comfort and friendship. Best wishes." And Gabbie said, "Oh, right. That was wrong to assume you'd apologize for hopping in and supporting hate while admittedly not knowing the scope of what's actually happening. I guess I figured you were DMing because you felt bad about hopping on a 3-year senseless hate train while I'm standing up for myself. If you're actually extending comfort and friendship, do that. Comfort and friendship is apologizing for supporting a statement you didn't look into at the expense of a woman being exploited and degraded. Otherwise, I guess I'm just confused at the point of the DM in the first place if you didn't actually want to extend comfort and friendship or quote-unquote chat." And Oscar says, "This may work on other people, but I'm not the one. And if this is how you reply to people that try to be kind and attempt in the slightest to see your side or comfort you, you attack them with novels and jump to inappropriate assumptions. Again, best wishes, and I hope you find peace." At which point, it looks like he's blocked her.
And I held him accountable to his portion of it, and I was like, yeah, like, you contributed to an ongoing hate train. And then he snapped on me and blocked me.
But in that situation, for me, it was a small little detail that people pointed out, which was Gabbie saying that she was not going to say this person's name. She wasn't going to put him on blast.
So I just had an experience. I'm not going to blast the person because he didn't do it publicly and he's clearly just like nervous.
But people noticed a tiny, tiny, tiny little tag that Gabbie tried to hide in the stories.
Stop fucking lying.
And that's when you get to the point where, like, say if she'd put his name, across the screen, nice and big, you could be like, "Oh, Gabbie, did you forget that you said you weren't gonna, But this was so clearly an attempt to deceive, to lie and deceive to anyone watching her content. And this is causing a problem for me because before like I said, I gave Gabbie the benefit of the doubt. And I'm realizing that things were a lot simpler when I believed her for the most part when she talked about situations. Or at the very least believed that she meant well. And now seeing that she will lie here and she will lie there and she will overtly deceive here and there, I don't know how to believe anything that she says. And that makes it really difficult to give like the fair, balanced, constructively critical content that I liked making about her and other people, but specifically about her in the situation. I don't know if I can do that anymore because I cannot trust anything that she says. And I have more evidence of that that I'm going to share in this video. But just like she said that Oscar like snapped on her and blocked and called that narcissistic abuse. And by the way, Gabbie's blocked me. So I guess you could say that Gabbie is my narcissistic abuser. Which I've never said this before on my channel, but sounds a lot more fitting than the people that she's calling that name. Anyway, and I love the way, I mean, sarcastically, I don't love, the way that she characterized Oscar, who was being nice to her in these text messages, as misogynistic and why is he not able to support women or something like that. When in these cases, we hear her using the term bitch when speaking about women over and over and over again. We see her coming for women so much. In my opinion, she came for Oscar after she heard people criticizing her for going specifically after women. She called him performative because he reached out to be nice, and because that conversation didn't go as she wanted it to go, then all of it must have just been performative. And that's bullshit. And you can call people all these words, performative, misogynistic. What about how fucking classist Gabbie is? People have accused her of a lot of things, but how much in the past week have we heard her talk down to people because they don't have certain symbols of status that she does? I said this in the BAP from earlier in the week, so I don't want to get too much into it. But the way she equates people to their numbers.
You mean miss 4K views on your fucking makeup tutorial? Miss 4K views on your commentary piece a week ago? Yeah, I just went and checked. I'm talking about you for attention. You talk about me, you get millions. I talk about you, I get still millions, but not because of you. Irrelevant. Dude, that's the meanest thing you can call someone. I think irrelevant, because at its very core, you're saying this is all you're worth is these numbers, and without that, you're irrelevant. But like, even if you just look at it at its surface of like, you don't get as many likes as I think is cool. What a gross cyber way of being a high school fucking bully. Literally. You mean miss 4K views on your fucking makeup tutorial? Miss 4K views on your commentary piece a week ago? Yeah, I just went and checked. The most sickening part about social media is how easily quantifiable you are as a person now.
You'll never be happy if you keep doing that, because there's Gabbie, I promise you, in any area, there is somebody doing better than you. And so if you keep equating your worth to your numbers, you're never going to be happy, because your numbers are only so good and they're declining. And you talk down to people like me, like Rachel, like Angela, like to everyone really, who in many ways, depending on how you look at it, are doing better than you and or are growing while you're declining. I'm sorry to point out such a harsh truth. I don't think Gabbie is her numbers. I don't think that that determines a person's worth. I'm saying this to illustrate that very point, that has to stop. But she did this to Nick Snyder with the whole Oscar Wylde situation, because if you don't know, I don't want to cover everything that's already been vastly covered, but their whole tiff started because Oscar liked a tweet by Nick Snyder. And what I respect about Oscar is that even when he had those private conversations with Gabbie, he stuck to his guns and he said, no, like, I'm here for you if you want to talk, but I still stand by liking that tweet. I still agreed with the statement that Nick was making. And Nick was making, generally, I'm characterizing that tweet as making a statement about how Gabbie has not grown up with her audience, and that can be an explanation for these dwindling numbers. That she does have certain stands that are going to stick around her, but unless she grows up, she's not going to maintain an audience. And Gabbie responded to that tweet, and I have notes here. She said, regarding Oscar to Nick, "Congrats, his verified like finally got my attention for you, Nick." And then said something else about like, oh, go run. Now you have something to make a video about. Go run, make your video. And she loves talking to people like this. Did you not just recently make a video talking about how one of the worst things you can call somebody is irrelevant, or in your dictionary, irrelevant? And so if one of the worst things you can do is, and didn't you say in that video that like you shouldn't equate people to their numbers? That's what you're doing. You're doing that to everyone. You know who you're doing it to? You're doing it to the people that you can somehow manipulate these numbers to make it look like you are doing so much better than them. And then you're also lying about those numbers too. You don't get millions. You don't get millions on anything anymore. You don't.
This is a super quick reminder to like this video and subscribe to my channel if that's something you want to do. If that's not something you want to do, just don't. I'll shut up and start talking now.
And like Trisha Paytas pointed out, you get what? 20K views on a podcast? Unless you get Trisha Paytas on your video, then you get something like 500,000-600,000 views. And you're going to go and shit talk Trisha Paytas now? And so now I'm trying to get back on track. I want to talk about Trisha Paytas. But before I get into anything Trisha Paytas related, I want to acknowledge the topic of pronouns when it comes to Trisha. In this instance that I'm about to talk about, Gabbie refers to Trisha as her. Gabbie has been actually, Gabbie keeps saying Trisha, her, she. And Trisha has not called her out on that. So I don't know if that's them being the bigger person or if it just doesn't matter. So with that, I'm trying to change my language to using the they, them pronouns, because I do think that it is a better catch-all. It is better in terms of respect for somebody when these things are unclear. But it is also a learning process and something, a muscle that I need to flex. And I may say Trisha more often than sounds natural. And just know that I'm trying my best. So on this topic, I don't want to get too much into everything that Gabbie has been saying in her lives that I haven't watched, her Instagram stories and her tweets. I really don't check these things. I see what people send me. What really bothered me, because I remember getting to a point where I was like, ugh, this stuff is just so exhausting. It's tiring. It's robbing me of my happiness when I sit down and spend too much time thinking about it. So I was kind of like living carefree and all that until I saw this screenshot where, oh my God, Gabbie Hanna is replying to TikTok comments again. Like, all of these behaviors we've seen to some degree happen somewhat recently, and we've been very critical of it with good reason. And sorry to go on another tangent, but I do think that all these things are really important to point out. I am done referring to Gabbie's behavior as having anything to do with a mental health issue. And neurodivergence and neurodiversity for that matter too, because I think she's doing a huge disservice to those communities by pretending that this kind of behavior is due to that or any mental health condition whatsoever. We're not doing that. And I will say this, that she flip-flops between referring to herself as fine and healthy, like she said about Rachel, right? If I'm not mistaken, she said verbatim, "I'm healthy, you sick, twisted bitch." She contradicted herself in one short sentence. And what I'm not gonna buy is what she did last summer, where people started giving her shit. People started talking about her. People started expressing their contempt for her because she went on her podcast, right? And she started going off on people and calling people names. And when people expressed their concern for her and her mental health and all of that, she kept saying that, like, she's so happy, right? She's so happy. She's got her house and her friends and her boyfriend, all the same shit that we're used to. And then once she got better, which I'm going to be honest, in my opinion, it doesn't look like she ever got better. I think she tried. I do think that she really tried. I think she wanted to be good there for a minute. But we never heard about any sort of treatment for anything serious, yet she came at the whole world or anybody who might have said anything negative about her or maybe laughed at her rants or anything like that. All of us were making fun of or talking down on somebody who was going through a mental breakdown. At the time, Gabbie, it was nothing. You were fine. You were happy. And so now people are concerned. They're like, Gabbie, this looks like you're going through another one of those. Whatever that was, it looks like you're going through it again. Or people are saying that she looks manic. She keeps insisting that she's fine. There's nothing manic about this. She also says, and you know, this is not off topic because this is contradictory. It's very contradictory. She also says that, you know, people always say money doesn't buy happiness until a rich bitch is down. Right after saying that she's not going through anything. So she's a rich bitch who's down. And then she says again, I think in those lives, like I said, I only saw the clips that people shared, but she insists again that she's not going through anything. She's fine. She's healthy. And that's why she's doing that. The reason she's behaving the way she is because she is fine and healthy. So we just all must be stupid to think that this behavior is not fine. It's not normal and it's not healthy. She also insulted Rachel's intelligence like nobody's business. And I really think that Gabbie Hanna is in no place to insult other people's intelligence. I'm not saying that Gabbie herself is not an intelligent person. I think she is. I don't think she's as intelligent as she thinks she is. And that's just based on my opinion. If she can give hers, I can give mine. But regarding Trisha, and specifically this screenshot with these TikTok comments, I want to address what she said about Trisha and what she also said about Spencer and explain to you who Spencer is to my knowledge. I don't have the screenshot in front of me, but I'm going to show you guys. Somebody said something to the effect of Gabbie Hanna is becoming the new Trisha Paytas. And Gabbie's response was, yeah, I'm like Trisha if she was talented and happy. Gabbie, what? Define somebody as bitchy or abusive exactly? Like what? Please give us a definition because like I was saying, like, you know how from time to time, we have to overhaul the dictionary because people misuse words. The next edition of the DSM will be because Gabbie Hanna has misused mental health terms to a point where they have lost their meaning. She talks about narcissistic abuse. She tells us when she's experiencing narcissistic abuse. But what about when she's doing it? Or is she not? So like, I'd really like to know the difference between the narcissistic abuse that Oscar Wilde subjected her to compared to the way that she talked to Rachel Oates. I promise you, there's always a justification. I promise you. I've always thought, at the very least since last summer, that Gabbie wants to be a good person, but when she feels wronged, all of her own personal rules go out the window. I think that Gabbie would not accept the behavior herself that she projects on other people. But I do think that she thinks that she's justified. So what kind of like, when you want to talk about like narcissistic behavior and ego, what kind of person thinks that they are the only person in the world who is a victim? And therefore they are the only person in the world who's allowed to use language like this and talk down to people like this. You know, it's not okay to equate people to their numbers and call people irrelevant if it's her and her sister, right? But she can do it. She can do it too. I would say all these people, Trisha and all the, it's just Rachel because Gabbie needs Trisha for views. getting back to Trisha, if you haven't caught up with the two of them, I did do a kind of a reaction or review or follow up to Trisha being on Gabbie's podcast, where they said they were hashing things out. And I truly believe this was a cash grab on Gabbie's part. I think that, if you just look at the views on her podcast, every single episode, and then look at the one with Trisha Paytas, oh my goodness. So Trisha has been in a moment where they are trying really hard to mend bridges and create more harmonious relationships, resolve any sort of conflict that they had with anybody else. So I think that Gabbie was taking advantage of that. We know that she trauma dumped on Trisha and treated Trisha like her therapist. She said that. She said that Trisha was acting as her therapist for 2 hours or however long. And then when Trisha walked away from the situation, they went and made a couple of follow-up videos where you could see that Trisha was trying so hard to keep it respectful and to not say anything negative about Gabbie. But however, the stans are in the comments of the podcast saying all these terrible things, saying Trisha's gaslighting Gabbie and stuff like that. So understandably, a person would want to defend themselves, but then trying to be respectful to Gabbie. So again, I made a video about that, so I don't want to rehash everything that I said there. But regarding the most recent things that Trisha has said about Gabbie, there was a video called Buttered Noodles on My Veranda, I think, in which Trisha talked about Gabbie Hanna and everything that's going on with her. Again, I have notes where I really just kind of jotted down what they talked about in that video.
Hopes that Gabbie is trolling and just doing this for promotion for something. Made a note that art is subjective, that it's okay for people to not like your art, that some people don't like Trisha's art, just keep it moving. Some people dig it. Bullying and narcissistic abuse is not the same as criticism. Trisha thinks that Gabbie should defend herself for the right things in the right ways, that she is a victim in certain ways, and those are the things that she should focus on if she wants to stand up for herself. Trisha also made a couple points, I think, going back to the podcast, but saying, like, what do you care? Why do you care what I think? Do your thing. She's being nasty by calling Rachel a bitch. Addressed the gaslighting comments on the podcast. Encouraged Gabbie to redirect her energy creatively and accept that people are going to have their opinions.
Trisha also, like me, was careful about using language like a breakdown, but said that they just want Gabbie to be better. And I think even said that people just want her to be better. And I think that's very much true. Like, I'm pissed at Gabbie for how she treats people and how she's treating people right now. But I want her to be better. Do I think that something serious is going on with her? Yeah. But I don't excuse her behavior for it. Let's be clear.
Again, Trisha pointed out that Gabbie is going off on people and all they're doing is having opinions. Trisha even asked, like, am I wrong? Sometimes I'm wrong. And at the end of the video, they said they're rooting for her health, her relationship, her career. Just stop attacking smaller creators over them critiquing your work.
And I think those are all I think most of us can agree those are very valid and fair and considerate remarks. And Gabbie goes on to her stories to say that Trisha's obsessed with her and things like that. Which, like I said, I cared more about this comment about, I'm like Trisha if she were talented and happy. First of all, I think people have demonstrated that even on music videos, right? Because Gabbie, you're not a YouTuber or a Viner or any of that. You're a musician, right? And last year, the whole issue was that I think that Special didn't get more than like 700,000 views, which, by the way, is by YouTube standards a pretty successful video. But okay, looking now at all of the music videos since then, I don't think they really get any more than that. So I think that that's just your standard now. But I think you might know that, Gabbie. But Trisha's videos are, like, you say you get millions, Trisha gets millions. So saying that they are not talented, Trisha probably might agree with you. But if you equate people to their numbers indicate that they are successful and talented. And happy. That's so ridiculous. That's so ridiculous to hear somebody in this state, even if we're pretending that she's totally healthy and fine, to be this nasty this nasty and attacking people who are so much smaller than her, right? So not as successful or relevant or significant or anything like that. Little Miss 4K views, right? That's what she called Rachel. She keeps saying, I don't give a fuck about what people think, but while displaying that she cares about what everyone thinks of her. And that is not indicative of somebody who's happy. It's not. And she's not honest either. Because I'm trying to think, like, when I'm at my happiest, I forget about what other people are thinking. And when I'm at my worst, I'm honest. And I just say, like, I'm going through it, guys. And take care of myself. And listen to people when they point out that, like, maybe something seems off or maybe I should be doing something differently. Like, this is the definition of a megalomaniac. This person is at the height of the hierarchy in her own mind of intelligence or wisdom or enlightenment or anything like that. Gabbie is convinced that nobody can help her. Convince me otherwise, Gabbie. The only thing that Gabbie has attributed to being able to help her is weed. Therapy is not even something that can help her. So anyway, another tangent. I don't believe that Gabbie is happy at all, just based on this behavior. I don't believe that she's happy. I believed before the mental health moment, breakdown, whatever you want to call it, before last summer, I believed her to some degree. Particularly when she met Peyton, I thought that she seemed happy. When she got her new house, she seemed happy. Since then, Peyton's been pretty absent in this whole situation where he was perhaps way too involved in the last one. So I think a lot of us want to know what's up with that. And I think beyond just a little passing remark about a production studio and Peyton working in there or whatever, like, why is he not in any of these posts? Why do you seem so alone right now? And I'm not criticizing you for it, and I'm not invalidating anything you're saying because of it, but I just want to know, why do you seem so alone? Is Peyton there every day? Be real. Where are your friends? Be real. Because you're spending a lot of time every day posting these videos and nobody seems to be around to help you to get through these moments. So that's more like parting words stuff. I'm getting too ahead of myself. It's really sad because going on to Trisha's Twitter to see how they might be responding to how Gabbie is talking about Trisha, it's all just so respectful. I'll probably throw some up on the screen here, but I don't really, honestly, I don't even remember word for word anything that Trisha said because everything was pretty calm and pretty respectful, despite the fact that Gabbie is being so nasty. Now, Gabbie says that she doesn't know who Spencer is. This comment said something about Spencer blocking Gabbie, and Gabbie said something along the lines of, like, as if I even know who that is or something like that. Gabbie's pretending that she doesn't know who Spencer is. Gabbie knows who Spencer is. In fact, Spencer is really significant to Gabbie. In fact, Spencer, his last name is Sharp, Spencer Sharp, is so significant to Gabbie that, to my knowledge, is Gabbie's ex, who was also the person who directed the video for Pillowcase. Also, she's very openly talked about how her entire EP was about a specific person. That person is Spencer. And that's not any insider information. It's easy to put the puzzle pieces together to find out that that's him, and I'll explain that. And as far as I was able to put together, there was a video where Gabbie spends the day with an ex, and they let, it was that challenge, the people before me determine my order, blah, blah, blah. And in that video, which was put out May of 2019, she says, "How long have I known you? Since September?" So since September of 2018 to no later than May of 2019, though she did say April Fools in the video, so I'm wondering if the video was recorded in April. So April, May. So from September to April and May, these people met, they got close enough to date, they dated, he supposedly cheated on her, according to Gabbie. She wrote and recorded her entire EP about him, and then healed enough from that she could hang out with him for a fun little video as friends. For all of that to happen in such a short time tells me that this person was incredibly significant, at least for a time. And since Gabbie has read all of our text messages, kind of, hardly, but since Gabbie released mine and her text messages out to the public, I don't think that she covered this part, but in our text messages, she referred to Spencer as somebody that she thought was her person. This person that she's saying that she doesn't know who he is. And I think it's funny because I mentioned this video, I'm with my ex, 24 hours, food challenge, whatever. Why do I know that that's Spencer? How do I know that that's Spencer? Well, for one, she refers to him as Eminem, and if you find out who Spencer is and you hear his voice and the way he raps, it's not difficult to figure out that that's who was in the video where she disguised his face.
Gonna stick my toe in sand and take you to the chosen land. Leave you with frozen hands. Frostbite. Gonna leave you in a lost fight with a dude with a... How do I start this off? I forgot. Oh yeah. That's an awfully hot coffee pot. Should I drop it on Donald Trump? Probably not.
But beyond that, Gabbie at one point tagged Spencer in an Instagram post. It's all gone now, so you either take my word for all this stuff or you don't. That's where we are, and honestly, like, that's pretty much how things have been when I cover Gabbie Hanna. It's like you've already decided before watching this video whether or not you're going to believe me. So, but I've proven that I am not a liar. So, not telling you who to trust, but Gabbie can tell you whether or not this is true. Spencer can tell you whether or not this is true. And certain fans and just people who followed her can tell you whether or not this is true. But Gabbie posted something to Instagram and tagged Spencer. As far as I can find, I wasn't able to find his Instagram. It might be taken down. But it might have been around the time that she recorded the video for Pillowcase, because he, like I said, he was the director on that music video. And so I think a lot of people out of curiosity clicked on his profile. I did. I remember just kind of clicking and looking. And pretty recently in his Instagram posts at that time, there was a photo that was actually a still from the footage of the video I just mentioned. The video with the ex with the face disguise. There was a still from that footage, and it was irrefutable. Same outfits, same shot in the car. In fact, no, it wasn't a still. It was a video of him rapping, if I'm not mistaken. He doing his Eminem thing, but this time you see his face. So it was either one or the other or both, but for sure it was Spencer and Gabbie in the car, and it was from that day. And it wouldn't be that big of a deal, except she did the same thing then too. I saw in the comments, because I was like, oh, this is the ex-boyfriend. And I saw in the comments that one of her fans said something like, OMG, is this the ex? And Gabbie's response was, I can't check to see if this is verbatim, but very close. She was like, ew, no, gross. She definitely expressed disgust.
Stop your fucking lying.
I'm not saying alleged. I saw it because I remember thinking like, that's rude. It's one thing if you guys want to keep your relationship private. I understand. I think it's just smarter not to address those things then. But you can do so without saying ew or gross or ugh or anything else that expressed disgust. So I just remember thinking that that was an incredibly rude way of lying to your audience. And then she goes right around and does it again when somebody brings it up. And she says that like she doesn't even know who that is. She's such a bullshitter, and what's so weird to me is that she will lie about things that are falsifiable. She will lie about how a text conversation went when those texts are on the internet. She will lie about not knowing people, and then there's proof on the internet that she knows that person. She lied to all of us in that video where she talked about, Jesse, Trisha, Alex, Beyonce. She lied She showed us a screenshot talking to Alex James, and she was like, oh, he didn't want to talk to me because he wanted to sleep. And in that screenshot, if you didn't know, in that screenshot, that person says, you have the wrong number. This isn't Alex. It's still not Alex. She put that screenshot on her video and took us all for a bunch of chumps. I forgot to say, and this is something that is not quantifiable, but I think it's pretty easy to tell, kind of going back to what she said about Trisha, if she were talented and happy. Be careful what you say, Gabbie, because it is very apparent. I was saying, all the reasons that I don't believe that Gabbie is happy right now. I mean, I don't think anybody's buying it. Of course, her stans will buy anything. They buy anything that she sells. Check each one of them. They have the 3 versions of each of her books. They'll buy anything she's selling them. But don't compare her to her fans. She doesn't like that. Nobody else is buying that Gabbie Hanna is happy. And in fact, she's told us before the mental breakdown of last year, she has said on her own podcast with Irene that, she was saying, I think it was like the prior fall. So around the time that the whole, what I call Herpygate happened, she was claiming at that time, Herpygate era, she was claiming that she was so happy. Again, my house, my boyfriend, my friends, I'm so happy. And then later, months later, she admitted that that was a time where she was the most depressed she'd ever been, but that she has to say these things. Why? I don't know. But she's demonstrated to us that she is willing to lie about her emotional state, which is not something I'd care to be too interested in, except for the fact that she is weaponizing all of this stuff against everyone. Everyone. But to imply that Trisha Paytas is not happy, I don't know how many people on this platform seem as genuinely happy as Trisha Paytas is right now. Simply based on how Trisha has responded to Gabbie in this situation is an indicator of how happy they are right now. However, I do believe that if it continues, Trisha will snap. And I don't think that that's an indicator of a lack of happiness. I think that's an indicator of somebody badgering and harassing you and attacking your character, your talents, everything that's important about a person. That is what Gabbie Hanna is attacking in Trisha and making claims like Trisha's obsessed. So if Gabbie believes that people should be able to stand up for themselves and Trisha decides to snap, then I don't know that I blame Trisha. But we see that in the past year, right? Because I think it's funny. I laugh about how a year ago I made a video called Bye Girl. I was so upset because I didn't take up for Trisha Paytas, although it looked like I did. I was critical of some people who were kind of mocking Trisha Paytas's experience with mental health or kind of exploring identity and things like that. I criticized that. I wasn't supporting Trisha. I was criticizing them. It looked the same to a lot of my audience. I understand. But they got very angry and that showed. And then they turned on the troll and made a bunch of trolling videos. And at that point, I was like, oh my God, like I can't support this. For sure I can't. I denounced this. And I was embarrassed because I looked like I had taken up for somebody who was now just like displaying such awful behavior. So that happened about a year ago. And now we've seen them really just kind of like mend bridges with so many people. Trisha said that is why they went on the H3 podcast, was because Trisha and Ethan had this thing from the whole Instagram versus reality video, and they had beef because of it. And going on the H3 podcast allowed them to kind of start smoothing things over, or at the very least, they recognize that there is this like interesting chemistry between Trisha and Ethan. And we've seen that blossom into a successful podcast. Like, Gabbie, what are you even saying? Like, Trisha has a podcast that is so much more wildly successful than yours is. How do you have the nerve to say that? to say anything about Trisha's talent or happiness, especially being somebody who equates people's worth to their numbers. Your numbers are not that great, girl. Like, not for somebody who came from 6 million. Jeez. Oh my God. Yeah, the choker is definitely speaking at this point. But yeah, you're talking about somebody who has a wildly successful podcast, a wildly successful OnlyFans, as far as I know, is smoothing over relationships with everybody that they want to, and just overall has not been problematic in a long time, probably since about a year ago. Trisha had a bunch of things to say about Gabbie last summer and some other influencers between that time and now. In many cases, I support those rants against James Charles, against Nikita Dragon, etc. Right? Serious? Can you like calm down or just like not tap dance right above me while I'm filming, please? Please. I just need like 5 more minutes. And then on top of all this display of healthy behaviors, or, you know, of course, Trisha's got a way to go. They recognize that they come to the table with a lot of issues, but at least they're honest about them and honest about the treatment they get and honest about how it's going and honest about the effort that they're putting into the relationships with other people. And so when they seem happy, when they're smiling and they're making not unproblematic videos, just videos, you know, like exploring new hobbies, like deciding to take up cooking because, by the way, they bought this huge, gorgeous mansion. Like, Gabbie, your house is beautiful. And if, to my audience, if you didn't know, she bought it from Reese Darby, who's one of my favorite comedians. So like, lucky girl for having that house. It's beautiful. I'd love to have your house. But Trisha's house? Did you hear what I said earlier? It's such a Trisha thing. Such a Trisha title. Buttered noodles on my veranda. Okay? They gave their opinion on the veranda about you. And it has now taken up cooking in this big, beautiful kitchen with a taste tester who is their sweet and supportive and loving fiance, from what we can tell. At first, I'll be honest, I thought that Moses lacked personality, but I wondered if that was a good compliment to Trisha. I wondered the same about Peyton. None of that matters. What matters is whether or not your partner is a good partner for you. Like I said, do they compliment you well? But also, do they support your health? I think that is the most important thing in a relationship is being able to support the well-being of each other. And I'm not going to speak on Gabbie's relationship, but I will say that we have seen nothing but supportive behavior from Moses. And a big, fat, beautiful diamond ring at a time that they're buying this huge mansion. So, not that those things define happiness, but Trisha seems to have all those things and happiness and peace. Like, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I don't think really many people disagree with me on that. So don't. Like, that's the part that threw me back into this situation, was when I saw those words. If she was, which is grammatically incorrect, you know, whatever. You know, it doesn't matter, but if you're going to come for other people's intelligence. If she was talented and happy, Gabbie, I'm just going to say it, you're neither of those things. And Trisha is at least one of those things. And by your definition, probably both of those things. So that's that. Gabbie, she's a liar. Figuratively, a big fat liar, and is just living a life apparently full of contradiction. And if you want to know more about that, I've got videos about personal experiences with her. It's lies, and contradiction. That's all we get from her, and that's all we're going to continue to get from her, unless something drastic changes. But she's so resistant to it. She so does not want to accept that she may need help right now. So guess what, guys? Like, This is going to continue until we all tap out. So make your 14-part series, girl. Like, do it. It's probably going to be the last thing that you're able to do to get views on, because people are going to be so sick of this shit. And we're not going to go through this in 9 months again. I could be wrong about that. So I'm going to just go ahead and wrap it up. To you, the one person who's watching, who's not me, even if you're a Gabbie stan, even if you've thumbed down this video, you're still here and you're still a person. So I love you, dude. I do. To Gabbie, like, in a way, I've got love for Gabbie. Like, be better. Be well, I mean. If you don't like Gabbie or her fans and you want to support somebody that they like to go after, you can subscribe to my channel. Feel free to give this video a like if you liked it. Let me know what you think in the comments, and you guys will see me in the next one. Okay, thanks. Bye.